that we have headliners in this tournament, and they're going head-to-head right now, right here. It's the wild cards. Magnus Carlsen, of course, not a stranger to be leading the Sinquefield Cup, but our newcomer, Hans Niemann, young at 19 years of age.
Against Devon Aronian, and here we have our first shots of the day of people arriving for the game and getting checked, for watches and wallets and things of that nature.
No, pardon me, no electronics at all. And they're going to be fighting, and they are fighting for the next 10 days or so. What are they fighting for?
Our viewers have seen this happen pretty much every day, but I don't think we've ever mentioned what this this piece of paper on a pad next to the score sheet is.
Right.
And as I explained, so it will be interesting to watch. And there we have our battle of our leaders. Yeah, with Magnus starting with 1d4, no surprise there. Magnus has been a 1d4 player for the longest time now.
And Alejandro, you mentioned in their recent match play in Miami that there was 4 games, and crazily enough, the one game he won was with the black pieces. And what did, again, have the game of Magnus versus Hans with the move knight c3.
Yeah.
No Catalans and an invitation, let's dance in a Nimzo.
A somewhat, I mean, obviously it's not rare. Nimzo is one of the most important openings in top players' repertoires these days. I think pretty much everybody who is not a lifelong Grunfeld sufferer
Yes,
has
or
this,
King's Indian sufferer.
Yeah, has this kind of a group of openings
Right.
available to them, playing perhaps the QGD coupled with the Nimzo to avoid some move orders. But of course you can still go d5, c5, knight takes d5, and play the semi-Tarrasch. There's a number of options here available to Hans.
That have become very topical at the highest levels of chess, including, as you were about to mention, this one.
Yeah, but bishop b4 is the choice. A notable thing, we don't have to go there yet, but I will just say that Jan Nepomniachtchi has been a hardcore Petrov player since the match in Dubai.
Exactly.
But today he actually challenges Lenier's Najdorf. And Lenier, on the white side of the Najdorf, is generally one of the scariest propositions, I think. He is extremely well prepared. He's been, putting a lot of questions to people. He did win this really brilliant game against MVL last year.
Which we discussed.
Yeah, their fight this year already in the Rapid and Blitz event. So Lenier is generally incredibly well prepared in Najdorfs. So this is an interesting choice by Jan, but it's a choice that
It's a opening, if you will, between Magnus and Hans, and it's like a hybrid of like 3 systems that you don't really expect.
Yeah, I got sidetracked by the fact that I can't remember my own stuff, and
And now you're looking at something
yeah,
that's
I looked
really...
back because I saw knight c3, bishop before g3, and I thought, okay, Magnus is kind of playing with Hans there, because this is not a very popular move order.
Romanician variation? Gary used it in his World Championship matches.
Yeah, but I think you play knight f3, you wait for c5, and then you play g3, right? This is what people. I mean, this is extremely popular. This is one of the absolute central lines. Yeah, g3 here is by far the main move, actually.
Exactly.
Above everything else. But playing g3 on move 4 with a pawn steal on c7 gives black so much freedom to choose, whichever structure you want.
Castles looks
Yeah, castles is fine. Bishop g2, of course. Yeah.
You can switch, as you say, to different structures.
Yeah.
Even including d5 and d takes c4.
Bishop g2, d5, and now Magnus goes a3. I am somewhat mystified by this, but I think what it does is it, very firmly says to Magnus's opponent, I'm probably not better, but you will have to start playing chess by move 6.
You're on your own.
Yeah, against somebody who is, I think one thing we could have very easily have already noticed from the first 2 games of Hans's in this tournament, he is extremely well prepared.
Right.
I think he very much relies on a very solid foundation of opening knowledge. Not that Magnus doesn't know any openings. Magnus these days is, arguably maybe the best prepared player in the world. Actually,
quite versatile. In fact.
Which is a far cry from his younger years when he wasn't really putting very much emphasis on the openings at all. But he clearly just says, let's play chess. Let's compare skill here instead of comparing the notes.
Can I ask the question, therefore? So captures on c3.
Yeah, that would be my
What is this
default
A3?
reaction.
The same-ish. Move 4, A2, A3. So it's kind of a same-ish,
Well,
where you've put
but
the bishop
yeah,
on G2 already,
never
which
connected,
is
never
connected to any
G2,
kind of.
yeah.
And White's setup has basically cost him his queenside weaken, most especially. Whoops, excuse me, that was a slip. Most especially the C4 square. We can imagine a quick knight.
96,
Somehow
knight a5. I'm also
landing there.
a little bit curious. If we go to take c4 here,
And that was
my guess is Magnus will actually play a gambit of some sort. I don't think he's playing queen a4. Queen a4 does win the pawn back, but I think bishop d7, bishop c6 should be fine for black. I think this is probably
immediately
not
challenging
yeah.
the light squares.
Yeah, because we get so much control over the light squares.
It's not what you're doing when. I think you're absolutely right, and take us down the proverbial pathway. Therefore, in case of the gambit.
I'm not entirely sure. Once again, ideally, I would like to play bishop c8, c6 here, or b5, bishop b7. But obviously, if we play b5, some kind of knight e5 will happen,
Okay.
or a4 first. And
Okay, I'm with you.
yeah, and in these positions, they are very, very difficult to assess because if White doesn't achieve something by move 20, White probably is just completely busted.
Exactly.
Because
the bishop.
the queen side is gone.
Right.
The queen side is gone. Every single endgame will be extremely problematic for White and so on.
Right.
But for the time being, there's a lot of activity. You can try pushing for some kind of a quick e4. There's a very nice a3 square for the c1 bishop. So this is not a position, you know, I'm trying to, I mean, we're still hanging the pawn on c3, right? We
True.
can't really be doing this
I'm going to be
as
picking up a
willy-nilly, yeah.
couple of them.
Yeah, you know.
Let's just put a couple of moves, just for fun.
Yeah, bishop a3 or e4, yeah.
Let's just go with it. Or I'm going to leave the king. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
I think it has to be knight e7 actually, because
Okay.
I think we need to have the option to play f7, f6 and drive this knight away.
Sure.
Bishop a3,
Okay.
f6, knight g4. I mean, this particular one I very much like for White. I think this is sort
right.
of the dream scenario. The knight returns to e3, we go castles,
This
we go
is-
even rook fb1 if we need to, we can
This
play
is
for f4, f5.
The big
Yeah.
compensation, which
This
you
is
like.
yeah, this is the absolute dream, but I'm not sure we're getting that.
Right.
But also d takes c4, of course, is nowhere near forced, as you were saying. Knight e6, a5 is very playable. Even simply b6, bishop a6.
Let's join. Let's get Alejandro to join into the conversation, and
It's reasonably well prepared even here. She takes d4. Magnus, interestingly, doesn't take with the pawn, takes with the queen here, which is
doesn't
maybe
take with the knight either.
yeah, maybe the way to go. Maybe it is the way to preserve something in the position without committing to too much risk. But
Okay.
knight 6 is a very good reply. Just giving up the pawn on c4 to play 6 c5, hugely important resource here for black.
Opening up the bishop.
Yeah, freeing up the bishop. Bishop g5, h6, rook fd1 on the board. Hans is thinking, which makes me wonder if he wants to play bishop e6.
Or
Because otherwise, I don't.
Queen e7 comes.
Yeah,
in the
otherwise, I don't
tempo.
understand what he's thinking about. Yeah,
You're right. Queen e7 to preserve a recapture with the queen against f6, but maybe it is bishop e6 that
I'm a
has
bit-
this. Well,
yeah, I mean, queen c5, queen b5. I'm guessing we meet it with queen b6. I'm guessing we play queen b6 here, and we claim that if the trade on b6 happens, we are not that worried about anything else because we will have enough counterplay on the queen side against the white weaknesses on a3 and c3. And it might be true for all we know.
and also.
But why not queen e7? I don't know.
Verusian also informs that queen takes d4 is actually a novelty,
novelty,
in it,
okay.
but it has a great deal of sense to it
Yeah.
as well. Once more, let's just take a look at this position: rook d1, bishop e6. I'm trying to make queen h4 work.
And then bishop takes h6.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we have enough attackers,
I'm
right?
very skeptical.
I don't think we have enough attackers for this.
Right? Somehow trading queens on b6 may actually, crazily enough, help.
I mean, it's a mixed bag, but I don't think black suffers. I mean, you create a very, very serious weakness on b6,
Right.
but a3 and c3 will remain weak for the rest of the game, and this very often results in a full liquidation of the queen side. If you look at the position again after queen b5, queen b6,
Yeah, this ending, Peter, black's comfy.
I think black is fine. I
Just
can't
because this-
imagine how this is worse for black.
Exactly.
Unless very specifically, like but even e2 is hanging, right? You don't even
Well,
have a
E2
tempo.
yeah,
Like, I
to
wanted to
play
go like
rugby,
92
what-
rugby 1 or something.
Right,
but
right. E2 is hanging.
E2 is hanging.
I'm always loath
I
to accept
understand.
this kind of structure.
I understand.
I
I don't
mean,
think
but
it's that bad.
probably nothing,
Nah.
nothing to. Okay, well, then Bishop E6 is a
And it's
very
actually on the
valid-
board. Yeah, this is
very
what Hans,
valid,
Hans has played. Yeah.
And you were about to say that
Queen b5 blitzed out.
B6
I think so.
pawn is weak.
Well, it is
What,
weak.
what was blitzed out?
Sorry, Alejandro?
Nothing was blitzed out, right? He hasn't played.
Oh no,
Oh.
no, sorry. Yeah, I looked at I looked at the wrong screen. Apologies. Yeah.
I've
I looked
got,
at your screen. And
Yeah, tricking you. But I'll take it from here because I was
Please,
analyzing.
our audience, please do feel welcome to challenge our panel through the chat window. Send your questions to our social media.
coming to the somewhat painful realization that there is no good reply because there's just no good squares. If you go to the left, so to speak, both b5 and a4 run
It
into queen
seems
a5.
Queen A5 is
And
the answer.
I'm guessing, yeah, he realized that this exists and is now acutely unhappy about it. And queen h4, queen e7, you either have to take on f6 twice, and if you have to pick a side, I think I'm picking black there,
You're not
honestly,
taking the
despite
bishop,
the ruined
queen
king
h4?
side. And I just don't think bishop takes h6 works at all.
Wait,
But I think
Why
Queen
aren't we taking the
H4
Oh, no, queen
takes
h4,
on G.
hg.
Right.
What am I talking about?
Right.
Oh my
I mean, well, these types of things work wonderfully when you have a knight on c3.
When you can play knight c4 or something on knight g5, yeah.
Can come brilliantly to the e4 and d5 square. In this case, not so well. Bishop e6.
So I think in Magnus's the good thing about him is that he is, fairly objective. He obviously, I think, as most of us are, this feeling that I have to put the upstart in his place,
Right.
will have been quite prominent before today. But
Right.
now that he's here, he will realize things have gone somewhat pear-shaped, and he will find a way to equalize and go for it. He's not going to accept a worse position just to continue playing.
Now, I know, Alejandro, you're not going to speak for Ceci, but I'll speak for humankind when I say I don't like losing the e2 pawn. And if I do take the time out to play king f1 to defend it and then pursue ideas
I
of
guess
knight
rook
d2,
d8 for now, right? To
Rook
move the rook away from the pin, so that later I can play knight a5 and b6 quite comfortably. Let's say
Without-
knight a5 here.
without fear.
Yeah, knight a5, knight d2, bishop b6. Knight d2 currently is unplayable, but you can start with rook b1
Right.
to avoid the forks. Let's just go b6 here.
Okay.
Knight d2, bishop b6.
Edgar 6, yes?
Yeah, I mean black is, I think, clearly very, very comfortable here. The pawn on a3 is just so much more relevant than the pawn on f6 here. Like if the knight lands on c4 at some point and is
Yeah.
not getting traded straight away, you're just in trouble. Rook c8 here.
Exactly.
Just look at this position.
I
Rook
was trying
C8.
to get in knight e4,
Yeah,
f4, rook
Obviously,
c8.
if you give enough time for the white probably will equalize. But move by move, like here after rook c8, you might have to play knight b1, and how happy will you be about
No, not at all.
knight b1? I do not know.
No, those split pawns, Peter, they're definitely a weakness, very aggravating. Well, for the wild card,
Which one?
Hans Niemann,
Which one?
I would say he's probably played about 100 moves over the course of the first 2 rounds, maybe even more. He hasn't been playing very badly at all.
No,
And on the contrary, he's asking some very awkward questions to the world champion.
So far, extremely solid performance by Hans, and he is not, shy of stating his claim. But so far, it's very well backed up by over-the-board play.
Exactly.
And yeah,
We'll
nice to
keep,
see.
we'll keep an eye on this, and we'll turn it over to
Whoa, okay.
Alejandro. Oops, what?
The game between Wesley and Fabiano, which we were claiming we will not
boring?
be. figure out yet is how we're saving the a3 pawn after takes bishop d5.
Exactly. That's the most pressing
Yeah,
question.
specifically
because-
bishop d5, because I want to stop knight g2. If white gets the knight to g2, white's problems are almost entirely over. If you play some kind of bishop king g7, knight g2, white is fine. White is not fighting for any advantage here with the broken up queen side the way it is.
But with the move bishop d5, the knight is temporarily frozen, and as you say,
I want to
give
play
me
knight c4 and I want to
give
take on a3. Yeah,
Exactly.
And we've looked at what the engines are saying on the break, and apparently this is.
hacker of the pawn on c3.
Yeah, if we can get the rooks off the board, it improves our situation greatly. And if black has to abandon the d-file, play something like rook c8 here, we can develop our own, like bishop h3 here is a very sensible move, for instance.
Absolutely.
And then we can start going for knight h4, f5 plans. Or if you play bishop e6, your structure as black will also become sort of soft enough for us to generate
Compromised a bit.
counterplay.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, I also I wanted to ask Alejandro for a favor. The game that Nepo lost in the last round of a Sinquefield Cup to MVL, I think was a very instructive game. If you could fish that game out for me, because I'm looking at this game by Lanier and MVL, and there's something about the game that I'm reminded of that game in particular, and it seems to me like Hans had a boomerang, and that this kind of hybrid system that the world champion essayed against the Nimzo Indian had got him a slight disadvantage. After rook d1,
Yeah, rook
I
c8
assume
chosen
rook
by
c8
Hans, yeah.
came after
Some thought, yeah.
some thought.
I'm pretty sure Hans went through the entire
List
process.
of-
No, specifically the same process that we went through, because rook
Right.
d1, bishop d5 does appear to just win the a pawn.
right.
So I'm pretty sure he saw that, and he spent some time trying to figure out why he's being offered.
A whole pawn and
Yeah,
a
a
knight
whole
ending.
pawn and that, yeah, which normally wins you the game.
Right.
But yeah, as we've established, both knight e3 and knight h4 with similar ideas.
And c4 as well as knight f5, pointed out by Alejandro, it seems to give white just the compensation he needs. Rook c8, more challenging. Peter?
Well, you're not going to win this position against the engine, but for a human being, I guess yes, it is more challenging, because if you give black the tempo here to play bishop e6, you might be in trouble.
Rook takes c4.
Yeah,
Rook
there,
takes c3.
there
sorry.
should be ways to deal with this concretely, but for the time being, let's switch away from the analysis of this
Okay.
endgame, because we have some guests in the studio, and in a moment we will have an interview with Shahryar Mamidarov.
All right. Right, over to you, Alejandro.
Thank you guys, Shak Mamed.
Some turbulence, because
Well, just a second.
f4 doesn't force c4 anymore. I can go, I don't know, maybe rook c7.
With the
We're
knight
not-
on
we're not-
d2, I'm
yeah,
not
we're
playing
not
knight
getting-
to e4. I'm
We're not getting the same
You're not obliged to capture and allow me to. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, we're not getting the same position.
You're-
Even
and-
rook d4 maybe is a move, because a3 is quite weak, although this takes bishop d5, maybe I shouldn't be doing that.
But
rook
your rook
c7 is a
c7,
is a serious move, yeah.
your initial instinct there.
Yeah, rook c7
For
and
rook
then knight
c7.
c4.
But I wanted to say that a lot of these world champions, they do find these ways of making a defensive combination, because that's what you would call this. Good enough for equality. We're always looking for white to move and win. And how about those white to move and draw variations? Knight takes c4, rook takes c4 on the board.
On the board, yeah. For me, like among the people I played a lot against, a very, very striking example has always been Vishy. Because from a certain point I stopped getting good positions against him, but when we just started playing in the mid-90s, I did get a bunch of very promising positions against him. I won 0 of them. Not a single classical victory over Vishy over like 25 years of trying.
Dang.
And I noticed very early on his ability to recognize danger. Like the moment he understood that something has gone wrong, he would very often
He shifts.
go into a very serious tank, figure out the exact way to defend from there, the best plan of defense from there, and then he would sort of zero in on that and start playing extremely quickly. Like it was both a combination of unique chess understanding. He's a very, very deep chess player, understands game excellently well, but also this recognition of where to switch gears, where to switch to sort of full-on defense. And he also was an extremely, extremely good practical player, and remains an extremely good practical player, which meant that once he's established his best, in his opinion, the best choice of defensive plans, he would start playing extremely quickly, also putting a lot of pressure on you on the clock, making it as awkward and as difficult for you to convert your advantages as it's possible. And in the meantime, we have a very interesting move there by Levon Arnian, which
this game is even more surprising. You don't want to miss the conclusion of round 3.
And, stellar turn. Well, it's. I think it's mainly because of the dominance of the bishop on d5 over the knight on a5, and the pawn weaknesses that Magnus is currently beginning to kind of gently massage here. Rook e8, I think, is a very good indication of where his mind is at, because if black goes king f6, which is the most natural move in the world, you just go rook h8 here. And attack that pawn with check. You can't really give up the h-pawn. The h-pawn actually is kind of important, so you go back, and after rook e8, you have to consider again. Currently, I think Hans can play rook c5.
Okay, take a look.
Because after rook takes c5, actually maybe we can take, right? Because after king f6, f4.
There is a knight c6.
Yeah, but bishop takes c6, I haven't.
No,
immediately.
rook takes f5.
Rook f5, yeah, rook f5, and I don't think I lose material. And if you have to play king f6 after f2, f4.
Sorry, oh, it's rook takes f7.
Rook takes f7 exists. Yeah.
Ah, excuse me. I'm like, oh, yeah. I've just shedded 3 pawns in a row.
In the game, yeah.
Sorry.
So I think I can take after rook c5, king f6. I was worried about king f6. I thought maybe after king f6, f4. For the time being, we're a bit stuck with white because we don't really have a good next move, perhaps. But also, it's very unclear what black is doing here,
Yeah,
because any of the knight moves will just allow us to liquidate into what I assume is just a draw on rook ending.
With the rook on h8, can I do all of this stuff with the rook on h8 now?
No, I think I can take on h6, right? Because I have rook d6 there.
And now you have rook.
I have rook d6. And I really don't think you can play king e7 and play for a win. I think that's a little bit too much.
No, that's not what I was aspiring for, most certainly. Okay, a little bit dull. I agree. White's got
White's probably
bishop
okay.
on d5.
Yeah,
White's probably okay. Jan's position. He did find rook c7.
He did find ways to keep the game afloat by playing e5, e4, and
then this
looks like
looks
like Magnus is wrong with this move. Yeah,
is wrong.
Yeah, I think g4 is not great, and I think it's specifically not great because you can start with rook c5, provoke rook d8, which really is the only way to keep the bishop.
Drives the rook off of the e pawn.
And then we take on g4. And it seems like this is now very, very risky for Magnus. Perhaps he is planning to play rook d7 here.
Not to take
bishop before rook c3, I guess, and you lose the I mean,
okay.
Rook d7, king f6, and the issue is bishop takes f7 is not that great, and rook f7, king e5 is also.
Suddenly, I'm
because
very
bishop b7 gets mated in 3, which is
missable.
Yeah.
But this is why earlier Alejandro wanted to play f4 for white. Just so that he didn't get caught in this pattern.
Yeah, such diagrams would not be, part of the conversation about the game.
Right. So
Magnus is, I mean, he's not out of the game yet, but he's definitely feeling the pressure. And
what should he have done instead of the move g4? Should he have
maybe
tried
something like e3 or f3? Just give yourself some space for the king.
For the king, yeah. The king is not going to d2 because of rook d7. So something like, maybe even h3. But g4, you say premature because of rook c5. And, well, okay, so how good, how bad is all of this? Take me down the primrose path, Peter.
What say you, Alejandro?
That's the best way to do it, right? No, the edges really dislike this format.
It was even maybe close to actual 0-0-0, but
wow.
This plan of just sort of passing and then pushing the pawn to e4.
Which kind of begs the question, was there any reason that Magnus himself didn't, I don't know.
I think he wanted to stop, well, not
F3.
stop, but maybe discourage knight c6. Rook b8 sort of very heavily discourages knight c6 because I think we're taking.
Right.
I think currently here the big problem for black is that we're taking, and if b takes, rook b6 just wins the pawn back.
Yes, one of the pawns dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was trying to play against the knight on a5 coming back into the game, but.
And well, okay, as Magnus is realizing. The next thing we saw is a knight on d6, and we go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
But actually,
whoa.
It wasn't supposed to be on the board anymore. This is the striking part, is that Magnus, who normally understands sort of changes of structure, changes of material balance so well.
After the knight c4.
After knight c4, you just snap it off the board. You go gf. Yes, you lose the a3 pawn, but like rook a4, you go rook b8.
Right.
b5, you go rook b6. Rook takes a3, and you make a move.
King d2?
King d2, I guess,
There.
or maybe e3.
Okay.
And I think you can see the outlines of why this isn't really winning for black, because it's very, very difficult to move those pawns without the inclusion of the king in the game. And the king is not really going to get included because it's very stuck on g7. The rook on b6 controls absolutely everything. So this is one part of the equation, and the other one is you play a4.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, as he played in the game. You play
Yes.
a4, knight d6, you play rook d8 here, I assume this is what he was planning.
Right.
And you get hit by 43, and you are kind of not doing very well. I think he just missed e3, but
That's painful.
he seems rattled by how this game is going, frankly. He just does not seem confident, seems to not be enjoying himself at all today, Magnus.
When we talked about the lowest rated player in the field, Alejandro, coming into this tournament, we imagined this biggest bullseye target anybody could ever draw on the back of a single chess player's back. And Hans Niemann saying, why do you guys think you can target me?
No, 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 no.
h5?
Not
Peter?
yet. No, he has to take on b7 first.
Take on
I
b7
think.
first?
I think Hans also repeated rook e1, rook e2 check a couple of times, which I think is a kind of shows a good understanding of. He has more time on the clock than Magnus.
I think that's a
Right.
mistake.
To repeat.
I think it's a mistake to repeat.
Why?
Because Magnus would have
Told us when we were young and arrogant.
Well, I thought it was the Russian school of chess. that
Exactly.
was
Yeah, I
telling us
feel
to do this.
I feel a certain affinity for that decision because like it's the supposedly correct way to approach things. But maybe you're right. Maybe if you realize King f6 and knight g5 will be the critical try, and you look down on your score sheet and you realize if I repeat it will be move 41, you maybe should not be repeating. I think you're very much on point there, Alejandro. I didn't consider this angle.
Right, but King f6 is on the board in the test. The ball is definitely in Magnus's court. Now, as far as King f6, rook takes b6,
It's two very, very strong threats. Because I think bishop d5 loses specifically to knight h3 and nothing else. It does lose to it though, because king h1 gets you mated in two.
let's not go there
Yeah.
with this very famous rook and knight pattern.
Yeah,
but
so you have to go to f1, and then black just takes on h2 and just sort of
Very calmly.
queens the g4. This looks maybe even rook f2 check first, so that we don't get boxed in with bishop g2 here, right?
I like that.
Let's include this little
Right,
check and then take on h2.
So
and-
there's no bishop g2.
And g3, g2 happens, I think, exceedingly quickly in these types of positions.
Makes sense. makes
So
sense.
92 exists, but apart from the fact that bishop h5 might still be playable even there, there is also the problem that without the knight h3 threat, we can go bishop d5 and defend from that side.
Not forced to part with the h2 pawn.
And another game that we've been discussing quite a lot today, but not for a while, the One is back to being kind of lost
Not kinda.
against. Against
Not kind of, I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
he's been explaining, pardon me, Peter, knight g5.
Well,
and
knight g5, maybe we
h3.
don't take on b7 now. Maybe we do something smarter. Maybe after
bishop
knight
g2
g5,
or
there's bishop g2 perhaps is a marked improvement over rook b7.
Okay, just
My
a
biggest
second.
concern here would be something like either knight c5 or rook d2, but
Now, my engine was saying decisive advantage for a second, and then I let it run. And then it was thinking, well,
of the overlords
Yes.
is that this is still okay somehow.
it's still holdable. Okay, might be a little much, but holdable, yes.
Okay, and from that point of view, then, Peter, what would you think is the most challenging for Magnus here? You mentioned knight c5. Would you be avoiding rook takes e3? Would you be avoiding knight g5?
Rook e3,
Oh, rook e3, b7. That doesn't.
rook b7,
really
maybe
help.
even bishop b7 in some positions. I'm not sure, but probably rook b7. Yeah.
So I believe you did mention knight c5.
Yeah, knight
as a
c5,
concern.
but I guess we go either the immediate rook c7, maybe rook. Yeah, let's go rook c7 here. Yeah.
Okay.
b6.
b6 was the
Guys, this will be an interesting
Now
endgame.
he's back to being what I assume is just completely lost.
as in completely lost. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, specifically after a precise move here, which I think is findable. He played rook f7 check after bishop d5. Hans played rook d2 after some thought, and this concluded the first time control.
I see.
Rook f7 check was absolutely the only move on move 41, and after king g6, then this is the second time in this game where Magnus chooses to try to keep the bishop alive instead of offering a rook ending. You can play rook e7 or rook f4 in this position, both of which very likely will lead to the same rook ending after rook d5, rook e4, which doesn't look very attractive.
Right.
But it's a
it may
rook
be
ending.
necessary.
It's a rook ending with all the drawing tendencies that implies, and instead he's going.
You're not ready to share.
I already did share.
Okay.
I mean, sort of in a more general sense, I haven't seen Magnus defend so shakily very often, because I think he definitely is one of the best people in the world in terms of sort of understanding sort of material changes required for the best drawing chances.
Right.
I just keep on coming back to those two specific points in this game. One where he replied to knight c4 with a4, and another one just now where you have this option of this rook ending, which, yes, you're a down a pawn. Yes, I mean, I wouldn't be sure this is a draw.
Right.
But rook g7, just sort of self-pinning yourself like this, I understand it's probably connected with a miscalculation of some sort, but I just would be very, very uncomfortable making this move anyway.
Right.
And here after knight g5, I think you have to play bishop f7 check, and now after king f6 or king f5, but I guess king f6 is good enough. You absolutely have to take on d2.
Yeah.
Black gives a check, takes on d2, and then the b-pawn just starts running.
It's a runner.
And I think this is sort of very, very optically obviously bad for white. Like you don't really expect to save this position, I don't think. And it's just so unusual for me to see Magnus not utilize every single defensive resource. Yeah, I don't think I've seen this too much from him over the years.
Weigh in on this one, Alejandro. A misfire.
Straightforward. I don't really see how you don't win from here.
Wow. Wow. Again, I'm just stunned. These two wildcard players, but most especially Hans, coming in this tournament is clearly the biggest underdog in Sinquefield history, starting with 2.5 out of 3. Just unprecedented. I don't even know what I could call it. Knight g5 on the board, and this looks awful for our reigning world champion. And how bad is Fabi's position? Or, as you were saying, Peter, I would never allow a pass.
I will defend the sort of
the myth,
the old wives' tales there by saying it has to be qualified, right? There are definitely positions in which queen and bishop will be stronger than queen and knight.
Okay.
But queen and knight, I think, are stronger when there is an unsafe king in the mix, right? Queen and knight are much better at creating direct attacks against the king, and queen and knight will be stronger in like semi-close positions where the bishop doesn't have operating freedom. But I mean, bishop is just a stronger piece than the knight, so it would be somewhat illogical if it was entirely overridden by adding the queens in the mix.
Good point. Knight g5 on the board. Time a factor? Probably
not yet.
Right?
Not
no,
yet,
because they've just made the.
What is the factor is that the position is bad.
It's just very, very bad. Rook takes
the position
g2.
is bad.
Okay.
I found a glimmer of hope, I think, for white. You play king somewhere. Let's say g2, and I think we're supposed to play. If you play king g2, I think we play a5 now.
a5.
Yeah, this is my glimmer of hope. Because we're currently controlling both b3 and c4 squares.
Well done.
Meaning that bishop d5 is a very, very legitimate threat.
Right. And liquidating the queenside pawns will certainly help you achieve the draw. But on the other hand, are we?
Yeah, something like this, I guess, bishop d5, knight somewhere. But then I go king g3, and maybe there's... Like, this I don't know how easy it is to win. I wonder why it is so completely and utterly lost.
Glimmer of hope, as you say. Okay.
Yeah, I think we
a5.
The bishop should not be allowed to d5 at all. I think we go king e5 here. I think this is the bigger issue.
Okay, a5. I really like that move. I mean, you've got to make it as awkward as conceivable for your opponent. a5 freezes the queen side for a moment. King e5 to stop bishop d5. And now are we ready for king g3?
Yeah, we can give a check from f1 there. Pick up one of the pawns.
Probably the h-pawn.
Probably the h-pawn, yeah. And then the issue is with the bishop on f7 completely locked out of the game. Eventually, let's say if the entire king side disappears, let's continue that line.
Oh, please.
Like king g3.
Knight f1.
Knight f1 check. We go king g4, knight h2.
Yep.
King g3, knight f1 check.
Yep.
King f2, knight d2. The problem for white, I mean, the king side doesn't even disappear.
There's still an h-pawn.
But yeah, the issue is that the bishop on f7 is so completely dominated by the king on e5 that I think black actually eventually will be able to relocate the knight from d2 to some square from which you can attack the pawn on a5, while white will still be, shuffling around, searching for a way to get something somewhere.
Exactly.
So yeah, the more you look at this, the more you realize if we could attack the b7 pawn, we would have drawing chances. Right. But it seems weirdly unrealistic here to ever be able to do that.
And if we
charge, just knight f1 here.
Charge boldly into
knight takes c3, followed by king d3, d4 followed by knight c4.
As I did this, instantly up came a table base that just said bang, 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 perfect
Yeah,
play.
but here common sense dictates that,
That
my
I
next
should-
two moves are king d4 and knight c4, and then your a5 pawn is gone, and you still haven't attacked on b7.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is
And
this
by the
appears
way-
to be done to a degree.
We do have this and a5, and this important moment is
King e5
king
is the
e5.
only winning move here. Everything
Everything
else
the
is
only logical move, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
and,
also,
unfortunately for
yeah.
Magnus fans, it's very, very logical to play the move
Yeah.
king e5 to stop this nasty bishop d5.
I think it's a very understandable decision here, because if you make your knight very bad, like if you allow bishop d5, put your knight on either c5 or d6, then white will have so much counterplay just playing against the black king side while you still have to.
And king e5 on the board.
Yeah.
Apologies for making comparisons, but I do remember one Gary Kasparov coming out of nowhere, and I believe it was a debut in Begonia. There was Tigran Petrosian and all of these, great players, and the Yugoslavian organizers had actually made a mistake. They had invited a junior player, and they wanted a player of this certain category, let's say 25, 80. And Gary was, I'm going to say, close to unrated. Like, he didn't really, there was a Soviet rating, but the ELO ratings in those days didn't change very often. And I'm going to say he came in as a, say, 2,500. And he passed his debut.
Yeah.
Did Gary. But that's as outstanding as what I'm witnessing today here with Hans. I mean, this is an amazing result. Should he
convert, but from here, it still takes some time, because weirdly the knight looks very nice on d2, but getting it to squares where it can actually attack something will take
like
some time.
C6, yeah.
But you actually do have all the time in the world here as black, because white really has no counterplay whatsoever. The bishop on f7 cannot be rerouted to any kinds of good squares at all, it appears.
When you think of juniors making their mark, you made your mark, of course, in Tilburg. And Timur Razhibov and Linares.
Yeah, I mean, Timur I think is a much better example, because if you talk about my Tilburg performance, I was 21. Like I was an oldster.
Well, 19-year-old Ali Reza and 19-year-old Hans Niemann. But I do remember also, funnily enough, Timur winning the Brilliancy Prize and tasering Gary Kasparov in the process, because Gary was the victim of the Brilliancy.
Gary, I think, was quite happy with that decision by not the appeals committee, but the judges have offended him grievously.
Grievously.
I think he even complained.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Vociferously, I might add. King e5 on the board. Alejandro, chime in. This is bad news for that loss by Levon. Really just makes
Extremely
happy,
consequential,
makes MVL very, very happy, but also Wesley So in the mix, in the Grand Chess Tour, wants the victory today, and he is nursing a two-pawn advantage.
One so far.
I thought only engine.
You mean in terms of I mean, he's up a pawn.
He's up a pawn.
Yeah. But it's +2.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Fair enough.
And but again, I'm coming back to this game ordinary achievement.
Yeah, absolutely.
for Hans
It's
Niemann.
Magnus's losses with white are can be numbered on
second. How
fingers
many?
on fingers on one hand over the
Right.
last I don't know how many years.
Exactly.
We could do some research, but it's definitely going to be an extremely low number.
Precisely so.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and I puff up a little while saying those words, because I mean that's going back a number of years, but I'm beyond that list.
Nice. Let's talk about longevity, streaks, non-losing streaks, and again, for me, one of the really remarkable ones was Michael Tal having two of the longest streaks of not losing were by Michael Tal, a player that we thought of as a fearless,
that was in later
calculator.
years, right?
Yeah, fearless tactician, He didn't lose very many. Then along came Vladimir Kramnik, who extended the record beyond Tal. And then came along one certain Ding Liren, who also had
He got to
extraordinary-
105, I think, right? Or
That sounds a little bit more. I was just going to say he got to triple digits and somehow stopped, maybe 101.
yeah, it was between 101 and 105. I don't remember the exact
And then
number. And then
Magnus.
Magnus beat that. Yeah.
Yeah. And currently, Magnus is on a 50.
50-ish, I would say.
53,
I'm
exactly.
I'm not keeping track. I'm sure PH knows. If we
Yeah.
track down PH here, PH will probably know the number. But
Okay, it's 53, guys.
Yeah, Verusian will set us straight. You know, come on, guys, it's 53. Get it right. And about to be upended on this
probably,
streak.
yeah. Seems like it's unlikely to survive this position. It seems very bad.
We're talking about getting to 2,900, losing a game for Magnus
Yeah,
against
this
a
will cost him like
26-86.
8 points or something. Seven or 8 points. Yeah, I don't know exactly how many, but yeah.
Oof.
There's about a 200 point. We can actually calculate. 200 point difference is the rough calculation is you divide it by 7. So that's what? Yeah, that's 8 points. Yeah, and
7, 2, and 10.
that means that his expected result is around 80%.
Right.
Meaning that you have to score 0.8 out of 1, and he scored 0 out of 1.
Oof.
Which is 8 points.
8
I mean,
points.
maybe 7.5, but
Right.
definitely in that vicinity.
I mean, what matters is he'll break 2,700.
Junior championships and fighting and crossing swords with Artur Yusupov. And he was one of those players that, you know, he wasn't in the World Top 100, but once you started analyzing and playing against Artur, you go, my God, this
Yeah.
guy's enormously strong.
Yeah.
Later he became a candidate and just barely lost a candidate's match against Anatoly Karpov, who played one of the great matches in my opinion. But Artur Yusupov, yeah, the juniors are coming, and guess what? King G3, Knight F1.
Yeah, this
check.
actually speeds up the process. I think the way to like make it maybe to move 65 was to do nothing, to play like King F2, King E2 or something, and
Right.
just wait for Black to improve. Black would improve eventually, but this would maybe prolong the game. King G3, Knight F1, I think you lose faster. Because now that we've taken away the H2 pawn, we really have nothing to worry about. And we
No
can switch,
worries.
Yeah, we can switch fully to the process of collecting everything on the queen side.
I agree wholeheartedly. Taking that H2 pawn off the board is just a kind of that extra sense of absolute blanket security you really enjoy when you know you're winning the game. So King G3, Knight F1, and no good suggestions, as Alejandro said. -9 is quite a lot.
11 now.
11 now.
11.
11 now. Back to
11. He found a way to threaten bishop d5, and after king takes e4, he will play bishop d6, and he will get that bishop to c8.
Okay.
But this, I assume, is lost to a number of things. First
Not
of all,
the least of which might be that the
yeah,
pawn-
first of all, we are probably giving mate on the king side, but perhaps the slightly sadder thing for Magnus here is that after bishop c6, I can play king d4, bishop c8, king c5,
Uh-oh.
bishop b7, king b5.
Uh-oh.
And yes, eventually everything on the king side will get collected. But by that point, I'm pretty sure I will. Hang on. Is this a draw after king g3? Maybe it's a draw after king g3 now. Huh.
Your knight is.
Yeah, I'm not in time. I thought I was in time to protect the h6 pawn, but I'm not in
Right.
time. Okay. Very nicely spotted idea by Magnus then, because he's introduced some lack of clarity into the position. You still assume this is not good enough, but
Something. I mean, of course, I'm a pawn collector. I want to play king takes e4, but sometimes, you know, when that bishop cannot control the diagonal, sometimes that pawn on e4. You know, if I went king f4 and the computer said you're a genius, and for all of those reasons,
bishop d5.
right?
Let's try to calculate here.
I'm just a little curious myself. Yeah,
Bishop
let's say-
b7.
Let's say I get.
I want to throw in a 4e5 somewhere. Yeah,
I know,
somewhere
I
around
know.
this point. But
probably.
But this is
here
already.
I've just. I've overdone.
This is winning for black.
Winning for black.
I
Hey,
think so.
What a luck sack.
Or maybe not.
Why is this winning?
This
for
is a
black?
draw. King e2, right?
Why is this winning for black?
King e2. Because king g1, I think we're in time. King
Yep.
G1, I think knight f3 check wins.
I understand, but King E2, right?
But King E2 is a draw, yeah. King E2, and the point is, if you play G2, I can play King F2.
Check.
No, this loses. This loses because of H2 check. King
What?
G1, King G3, bishop takes G2, H2
The
check.
H2 check.
H2
That's
check
right.
wins.
Exactly.
Why
Sweet.
is any of this winning? I don't understand.
What?
This is winning?
Yes.
H2, yeah.
You pick up my pawn somehow? But like, why am I doing anything this way? I don't have
Yeah,
to
well, you can
push
take
my
you can
pawn.
take bishop takes G2 earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
You can G2 bishop takes G2 is the
Okay. Anyway, that was just kind of like a fantasy line where sometimes you don't want to take the pawn on e4 because you can go h5, h4, h3, and g3.
Yeah, I
More
wonder
concretely, though,
I wonder if you're supposed to play G3 check here.
what?
I understand it's very counterintuitive, but I think it solves our biggest problem, which is not to lose the b7 pawn. Like King G3, knight f1 check.
Okay.
Choose a square, any square.
Okay. I'm off. it.
Just knight e3.
Knight just to stop bishop d5.
Yeah, and then I will I will take on e4 and I will get to the squares I want to get to, and I will
Kind
win.
of transposing to a line that maybe we saw from a different move order.
Yeah, I think G3 check might be the simplest conversion, honestly, because King G2, knight G4, you resign immediately because I've stopped bishop D5 again.
Right.
So you have to take on G3, I go knight F1 check, and you have to choose between, I think, F3 and F2. But against both of those, knight G2 wins the pawn on E4. Let's say King F2, knight G2. Once again, I've stopped bishop D5, I will take on E4, I will play knight
Knight
D6. I will play knight D6. And then, you know, the combination of pushing the H pawn and getting my king over to like C5, B5, those types of squares
Will be good
has
enough.
to be a very comfortable win for black, I would assume.
Has to be good enough. Whoa. A valiant try, Alejandro, by Magnus, e3, e4, trying to trick Hans, but this move g3 looks, well, an extraordinary result. I mean, guys, this.
Yeah, you can actually go wrong here. I mean, the two moves that are winning, I think, are findable both. Obviously, King takes e4 is the most obvious move in the position. And once again, if you just continue calculating, you realize just how slow the whole bishop b6, c8 takes, b7 takes, a6
Routine
plan
goes,
is, and that your plan of advancing on the king side is just so much faster. But honestly, I think g3 is simpler, because I think not allowing any counterplay at all just makes you win so much more comfortably. King
Exactly.
somewhere, I go knight g2, I go knight takes e4, I put the knight on d6. Yeah, this just is impossible.
Yep.
Yeah, so you play like king e3 here.
Yeah.
After king of2, knight g2. You play king e3, I take on e4. My next move is knight d6. The bishop actually has to vacate. Yeah, like knight d6 here. King d3, king d5, king c5, king b5. This is really not difficult.
Not at all.
This is really not difficult at all. And also there's really no calculation even involved.
No.
Your play
Is to go and pick up a pawn.
Yeah, your play requires absolutely no thought, seemingly. Like you can do it by hand,
Right.
so to speak, without
Right.
really involving the brain. But he chose to king takes e4, which is, I'm guessing, winning faster.
Yes.
But yeah, me, being a devout chicken,
Devout chicken.
I would have probably played g3 check.
Is that grilled or fried or roasted? Devout chicken.
Wesley, meanwhile, has found g4.
He did. Yeah. King takes e4, bishop e6 on the board. King f4 on the board also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry,
it's
can you
not.
refresh
It's pretty straightforward from here. You play king f4, you start pushing the h pawn, and
Just had to refresh the board there for a second.
we're, it feels like we're probably like 2 tempi up. I mean, 2 tempi ahead of the counterplay here.
Right.
Bishop d5, h5, bishop e7, h4, bishop a6, h3.
Yeah.
We've already basically gotten there,
We've
and
been.
white hasn't really even started properly yet. Like
Exactly.
h3 followed by knight f3. We don't even have to play g3 check immediately. Like bishop b7,
I mean,
I like
I
knight
have
f3 better than I
A
like.
choice of wins, right? Because if you go bishop c8, if I bring my knight back,
Actually, knight 3 was the only winning move in that position, I think. I just saw on my screen, no? Bishop b7, just go back for a second. Yeah. Knight 3 only move that wins.
well, that makes
G3
sense.
does not win?
G3
No,
does
but
not.
g3 king e2,
Ah,
right?
okay.
That looks completely
Oops,
wrong.
but knight f3.
Knight
yeah.
f3 does win, of course.
Yeah, that's an
because
easy one.
No, but I was wondering in the immediate position, bishop c8, knight f3, does that also win? Wait, no, the current position, you go bishop d5 or bishop c8.
Bishop d5, knight f3, and then
Bishop d5 now.
knight f3. Ah, you want to pick up the a5.
I just want to pick up the pawn.
Bishop b7, like knight d4 or knight
Very
d5,
lazy,
whichever. Yeah.
very lazy chess player.
Yeah, should also be very good. Yeah.
As a devout chicken, you can endorse this one too.
Yeah. Even though I'd be a little bit worried about bishop c4, knight a5, bishop d5, and I maybe have to think a little bit. But probably not very hard. Yeah. Like. Honestly, this is surprising to me just how winning this apparently is, because this feels like it could be tricky. But I guess you just play king e5. You time king e5 well, and then the
king
knight
is never
gets
going
out,
to get to g3.
Like I play h5, h4, and then I hit like, let's continue for a second. Yeah, king g2, I play h4. You play a king f2 or king g1 or whatever, and I play king e5 here.
Yeah, and I can't play bishop to...
Yeah, and the bishop does not attack the g4 pawn
Exactly.
yet. So I get to move my knight away, and then I bring the king back to f4, and I win very comfortably. Yeah.
Agreed.
So we'll see which one Hans chooses, because yeah, there is this very kind of a pragmatic way of playing with just knight f3, knight anywhere, e5, d4, as I said.
Well spotted.
Or you can give mate.
Or you could give mate.
Alternatively, you can give mate. Yeah.
Nice. Mate sounds good. Wow. Again and again. Sorry, I'm putting you to the test. When you saw Junior making a splash, whose names trigger?
I mean, recency bias, right? It's you have to go with the current crop because they're just they're just so present in your mind. Yeah, like the Gukesh starting with 8 out of 8, or just now in Chennai,
Right.
and just sort of barely outrunning Nojebek and the rest of them who were also like Nojebek was on 6.5 out of 7,
Right.
and finished I think on like 9 out of 11 at the end of it. So.
I remember Morozevich making a splash too, London, Lloyd's Bank with like maybe 9.5 out of 10 or something.
That was
ridiculous.
94, I think,
but
right? Because he qualified for the PCA Grand Prix by winning the Lloyd's Bank.
Okay.
And I think the PCA Grand Prix did not start until 94. That was probably Lloyd's Bank 94. But he was. Yeah, he was like 18 at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was an interesting case though, because I played in some junior events with him, like under 12s, under 14th, and he wasn't winning them. He was a runner in them. You saw him being good, like you could very easily see that this is somebody who is very, very decent. But he wasn't winning them. He wasn't a favorite in them necessarily. And then he sort of disappeared from, let's say, my personal view. Like I didn't see him for a couple of years. And because in those days, like there was no internet, people disappeared and played in some local tournaments, and you knew nothing of their progress.
Right.
And I thought, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe he will actually just disappear. And then he scored 10.5 out of 11 in Lloyd's Bank, and I thought,
he's back.
Probably not then.
Right.
Probably
and
not
for
then.
you, Alejandro, when you think about in your history, juniors who have made a splash and said, "I'm here. I just want to announce myself." Who the names come to your mind? World champion.
Nojebek?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan. I think Nojebek is. I mean, but it's not even any kind of a minority opinion. We've just witnessed, and like I covered the Olympiad from start to finish, and we started talking about India B and Uzbekistan from day one because we thought we didn't know how it will turn out, but from day one, both me and Peter Leko were saying that these are the teams to watch because you're just potentially you're witnessing history in the making.
Exactly.
But I mean, there was slight surprises in just how well they were doing.
Yeah.
But honestly, not that much. I expected both of them to be very much contenders in the fight for gold, and. Yeah, right. I mean, when you see 8 out of 8, I don't think Gukesh himself expected to score 8 out of 8 on board one in the Olympiad.
Exactly.
But yeah, I very much expected both of those teams to be extremely, extremely in the mix, and that's what happened.
Again, you're completely correct. Magnus has
he's playing this out,
his
but
bishop d5, And Hans recognizing, of course, that he should get his pawn to h4 before essaying king e5, and he's done just that. Nothing to do. Magnus has
not
got
very
his
much.
head in his hand, and that's probably as bad a body posture I've seen on Magnus in ages. I mean, he's just like,
Yeah, this is not great.
Yeah.
This is not great. He's not enjoying this. And,
not at all.
No, well, he shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
There's nothing enjoyable about,
Not at all.
about any of this. Yeah.
And he never really got out of the opening, Alejandro. It was this kind of a strange hybrid A3, G3, Bishop G2, Nimzo Indian. He didn't achieve anything, and then we played it poorly.
He had a couple of chances to equalize, but that was about it. I mean, Hans was always more or less in control in this game from start to finish, and a couple of chances that he gave Magnus to come back, maybe transpose into a holdable endgame. Let's not even call it equal completely. Holdable endgame. Magnus didn't take up on those precise moments, and it was just all Hans in this tournament, and not in this tournament so far, but in this game.
In this game, yeah. Okay, Bishop D5. I'm assuming King E5. So
yeah,
what
H3
I
still
wanna
wins,
do,
but yeah.
Sorry.
H3 also wins, but I would just play King E5 here. I don't really want to touch my H4 and G4 setup because it doesn't. And there we have it.
Handshake.
There we have it.
Wow.
What a result. What a
Wow.
result, guys.
Truly. Wow. I can just imagine the chat going nuts at this point. Like, what have we witnessed? The Sinquefield Cup. What is it about the Sinquefield Cup? I mean, guys, the Fabi, the streak,